Hello and welcome to a presentation of the new features that are available in the Metro Automation Engine version 4.1. We're going to walk through various features that have been recently added and summarize at the end. So in terms of new features, the first major feature that has been added is the MetroAE Config for the VSD. And what this MetroAE Config is a departure for our team. Normally, Metro is limited to deployment, that is installation and upgrade, and health checks. Well, with this feature, we're stepping into the realm of configuring the VSD. So you can use MetroAE Config to create, update, and revert VSD configurations, all based on YAML files. So there's no programming required. And you select from some canned feature templates that define the functionality that you want, provide the user data in the form of YAML, and apply it to the VSD. And you can see a video playlist that we have already configured provided a video demo of the MetroAE config function. So I encourage you to go to noc.it/metrovideo and find the MetroAE config video for your demo. We've also added a feature that helps with customization. We often hear that MetroAE does a great job at many things, but there's one or two manual steps that need to be added. Now, in a previous release, we provided support for hooks. And so in various places in the MetroAE code, you can configure it to execute your arbitrary command or script to do custom things. And that way, you can customize the way MetroAE works for your environment. Plugins is a new feature available in version 4.1. And this allows you to actually create your own Ansible role, import it to Metro, and execute it. And this is especially important because you may have a special proprietary use case and you don't want to share the code with other people and other companies. So with MetroAE as an open source project, it would be available to anyone. So what this allows you to do is to install MetroAE, import your custom proprietary Ansible role, and then have MetroAE run it for you. And you can do that in conjunction with the other things. So for a couple of customer requests and also for the VNS white label program, we implemented disaster recovery support for the VSD and the VSC. And what this allows us to do is have standalone backup and restore workflows for those. So it doesn't have to be done at install time. It's just something that could be done at any time. The system does not need to have been installed with Metro. You simply have to configure Metro to do the backup and the restore and execute the proper plays. We've also had a few requests to automatically run yum updates on the Elasticsearch nodes as they're being installed. And we've made that optional because we understand that in some situations that's not appropriate. So we would allow you to do that optionally. We implemented a check to verify that the hypervisor you're using in a KVM or vCenter environment has enough disk space before it goes ahead with the install, because you know the VSD images are quite large and that's a good thing to do. We've also had a few people mention that Metro required a host name be defined on DNS, frequently or fully qualified domain name be defined for VSC. Well, in the 4.1 release, we have now made that optional. So you don't have to do that. You can simply provide an IP address and not a host name for the VSC. Obviously, we've had to upgrade the way we handle version strings because of the 20.5 naming and 20.10 that's coming. So we do that. In a VSS environment, we support the installation of the web filter VM. In a data center environment, we support the install of the netconf manager VM. And we have now provided instructions for configuring MetroAE with Python virtual environments. This is important for environments where you may have package requirements on your server that are incompatible with those that Metro has. And then rounding out the set of new features that we have is we support the application of a custom configuration file to the VSC at install time. What we have been doing, the default, is that we create the configuration based on some variables that you give us. And we found that there were folks who needed additional configuration beyond what we're capable of doing at this time. And so we will now support the installation of a config file that you provide. Also, for VSC configuration, we are now allowing the capability to enter BGP route reflector configuration on the VSC. So you can also configure that. Similar to the support for a configuration file being implemented for the VSC, we support the same thing for the Nuage at install time. So if you have an Nuage config file and you'd like that applied when the Nuage is installed, we can do that. We also had a request for being able to install Nuage when VSD is not present. Previously, our Nuage install was dependent on a VSD being present, and we made that so that the VSD presence is optional for Nuage only. We've also had a request from one customer and from an internal team to add a second larger disk for Elasticsearch at install time. The default hard drive, if you will, for the Elasticsearch VM is often too small. So this will handle consuming that or handling that for you. We had some requests from customers that when we run MetroAE health reports that we support emailing those. So now you can configure an SMTP server and when you run health reports, it will mail those to the designated email addresses that you specify. And we also at the same time added support for configuring Monit email alerts. We also had a couple of customers who were deploying Nuage software on OpenStack, and they wanted to use CA certificates for the communication, for authentication with the OpenStack controllers. And so we added support for that in 4.1. We're also doing a little extra checking in the HA cluster environment for the VSD. We're now checking to make sure the DNS SRV records are present. We also had some requests for supporting vCenter VM folder specification. Previously, we allowed you to go all the way down to data center, but now you can also specify a folder. Data store. Now you can also specify a folder in that data store. And we support configuration of our syslog for NSGBs. And that summarizes the many features that are available. I hope you'll give us a try. You can find us on GitHub under the Nuage Networks project as Nuage-MetroAE. Thank you very much.